Hello and welcome to a developer's run of Tink's Quest. This is a game my friend Ivan Gunn and me, Chris Dunson, made about 3 years ago. 3 years ago in a day, to be exact. Now, this game is a platformer, a really terrible one at that. I've always been a huge fan of platformers, and me and Ivan both felt it was a really good way to start our little programming career trying to learn how to make games. And so Ivan decided to take the main character of one of my games, Marathon Star, and use the protagonist as a platformer. The game I made was just an avoider, so it's a very huge departure. There's not really any story in Marathon Star, but there's lots of terrible story in this game. But what are you gonna do? It doesn't really matter. It's a game. That's what's important. So the two of us learned a lot about game development making this game. Like, as you can tell right here, I kill myself pretty easily because of the hurt box. Like, the hurt box is just a square around Tink, I believe. And so the edge of that square touches the edge of the square around those spikes, you get hit. So there's going to be a lot of times where the player dies and it doesn't really look like you should have died there. I've definitely learned from playing Super Mario World that you want to have a very forgiving hurt box. The player should be able to be slightly inside of spikes or some enemy or whatever and not actually die from it. Like, you don't notice this like a lot of the times when you're playing Mario games, but Mario games have very forgiving hurt boxes where you can be inside of a Goomba and not die. Like, you have that small amount of time to go, oh no, and hold left and walk away. You don't have that in Tink's Quest. And also, we should have a more forgiving collision box for platforms. You should be able to be slightly off of a platform without actually falling off. You don't normally notice that, but again, it's a huge help. Like, even though it's just that slight amount, it's really good for the player. It allows them to not screw up as often, and then you don't have a very frustrating game like Tink's Quest is. A lot of this game is really memorizing. Like, you need to memorize everything you're doing, how the levels play out. Like these spikes, for example. If you don't know spikes are going to start spawning, then you die. Like, there's no playing around that. You need to know about the spikes, and then you go as fast as you can. That's another thing I've learned in game development. It's really important to get your game in players' hands as fast as possible so that you can see all of the mistakes you're making. When you're playing your game, when you're the only one playing your game, you tend not to notice these mistakes you're making. You're like, oh yeah, these spikes, I know they spawn. I know the speed they go. As long as I'm holding right the second I spawn, I can make it. Speaking of which, this level we redid a couple times. I'm pretty sure those spikes are spawning dramatically slower than what they used to because it was just impossible. Oh, speaking of changes, you can see the box says lives used at the top. That's not how it was originally. You had lives. I'm pretty sure it was 3 of them because that's a normal number you have in most games. And yeah, you would lose 3 lives and you'd start the game over. No one could finish our game doing that, especially since people would game over on the first stage, and so they would just quit playing. So instead we switch it to lives used, just so you could tell how many times you died, which was a lot better. Oh, and this boss fight as well. Like, it's very crazy. It's very sporadic. There's just attacks that went all over the place. The only way to really win that boss fight is to know the pattern. So you just kind of have to die over and over again to learn the pattern. But again, that's just something Ivan wasn't thinking of as a developer. He was just, let me create this really cool, interesting fight with all of these different attacks. But nah, it becomes a memorization for the player. Us as developers, we'd memorize the pattern because we programmed them ourselves, but the player just kind of has to die over and over again. And there's only one hit. Like, you only had to hit the boss once. Originally it was 3 times, but we decided that was way too much for the average player, so we got rid of that. Now here you can take 3 different paths. I personally always choose the middle path because I believe it's the most difficult path that Ivan programmed. And so it's the only one I had fun with. The other ones just feel too easy. Like that, I guess that one looks pretty easy itself, but it's just the jumps in this game. They're kind of awkward. Like you have to do your jumps precisely, or you'll land in spikes, or you won't land on the platform exactly how you want to. And right here, you have to collect all 9 of these keys, or else the screen will keep scrolling and then you'll die. Like that's pretty poor design, because again, you have to know that's coming, and the middle path is the easiest one to do just based on where Tink is. But yeah, if you don't know about the keys and you get there for your first time, you're going to die because you're like, huh, what's going on? Too late, you've already hesitated. You don't have enough time to grab all of the keys. And here we have the boss fight. Like this is a very short game, but due to how difficult it is, it could last for a good while. But yeah, you can only get hit once. If you get hit once, Tink dies. And the boss, on the other hand, has 100 energy, and you only deal 1 damage. And this, just like the other boss fight, requires memorization. There's those hurt boxes and hit boxes I was talking about. You really want those to be more forgiving. But yeah, you have to memorize the boss fight, and there's 4 or 5 different things that the boss does. So going in, you should just expect to die. Like I'm used to that. Like older games that I played, like on the Super Nintendo, you would be playing like say Mega Man or Bubsy the Bobcat, which is a really bad game. Not Mega Man, Bubsy. But you had to learn everything. Like you died every 3 seconds. That was normal, and you would eventually just be like, well, I know this is going to be here, so let me not be there. Like I feel games can have things like that, but there are definitely better ways to go about it. You should be able to feel like you understand why you died as a player, like what mistake you made, rather than, well, okay, I didn't see that coming. Oh, and yeah, this is another bad thing here. Like Tink can, like in the previous phase of the fight, he could go all over the screen, but then in that last phase we just saw, the top portion and the bottom portion of the screen, you can no longer go there. And there's nothing that says that, it just happens. So yeah, that's pretty poor design. But you know, one of our first games, what you gonna do? Don't sue me. Yeah, and I don't think I do it here. Oh yeah, that's right. We took it out, but when you shot those orbs, they would explode and send like really huge blasts in 4 directions. But to make it easier, we just made it so they disappear, I think. So it's not really that big of a deal. But I've played the game so many times that even though it's not in the build, the published build that we put out, I'm still wary of shooting those giant orange orbs. Like, I don't want to get hit by that. Just learn behavior. Man, like, this boss fight's so easy for me now because I know the entire fight like the back of my hand, but I know a player going into this is pretty insane. Lives used only 11. That's pretty bad. I can definitely beat this game without dying, but it's been a while. Oh, and here's more bad story. I mean, really good story. Ivan's so great at that. I mean, going into this game, it's not like we really put any time into thinking about the great adventure of Tink. Like when I created the character in Marathon Star, like the enemies are ninja stars because I thought it was cool. Like there's not really any thought involved into that. And then here we have the final score screen, so you can see all the levels and how good you did on them. I'm not quite sure what's going on. You got live bonus, starship bonus, time bonus. Like I see all these numbers popping up. I have no idea what's really going on. Like this is all Ivan here. Like I'm sure there's some really impressive arrays and all sorts of variables that were stored. Oh, I got a negative score on level 3. I probably died there a few times. Are there 9 levels? I don't remember doing 9 levels. I don't know. The final score ranking is S. Just letting me know how amazing, well, Ivan's letting me know how amazing I am, and letting all of the players know to look forward to Tink's Adventure 2, The Land of Fire. I'm pretty sure Ivan originally intended to have 4 other levels. Well, that's Tink's Quest. Thanks for joining me.